You know what drives me nuts? Other than my wife sometimes, the people that come up to you and ask you, I don't know how to do this thing. Whatever it is. I'm talking about mostly in the tech space, in IT, but like, let's say, somebody comes up to you and says, I don't know how to install this software, and then just blankly stares at you, like, waiting for you to say something, waiting for you to take the initiative and say, well, here's how you install this software, and just locks up whenever, whenever they don't know how to do something, like they don't take the initiative to even say, okay, here's what I've tried. It's just like the forums, and people say, I don't know how to do this thing, and then they get flamed. They get flamed forever from dozens of people because people want to know, what have you tried yourself? You're not going to, we're not going to do everything for you. RTFM. And it's kind of the same thing that I want to talk about today. It's like, I was listening to an audiobook recently on Atomic Habits by James Clear, and in there he mentions something. It wasn't necessarily about this topic, but he mentioned something about how to change a habit you need to try different things, and that got me thinking in context of work, of the workplace, of the especially in IT. And I got to thinking, like, this is one thing I'm pretty good at, and I've had coworkers in the past tell me I'm pretty good at, is that if I don't know how to do anything, it could be something that I have no idea how to do. Just to give you an example, with Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, years ago, we had nobody. I was in a consulting business, and we had nobody to. We had a client that wanted to implement it and wanted somebody to manage it, and we had nobody in the company that knew anything about SCCM. And I had one of the sales reps that just heard me a few weeks ago say, "Oh yeah, I used that at an old job." And what I told her was, I wasn't an admin. I just used it to deploy already created software. I essentially knew nothing about it whatsoever. But voila, you know a little bit. It's yours. So I was kind of thrown into that, and I tend to approach a lot of things like that where I just don't know what I'm doing as a learning opportunity. It's a little scary at first because this is a big contract with a customer, and they were depending on me to make it work. And I blankly told him, I have hardly no experience with this whatsoever, but I'm willing to try. And it had been 4 years or something. They kept me on it for 4 years as kind of a staff augmentation position. Of once I got it implemented, they said, "Oh, it looks like he knows what he's doing. It looks like he knows what he's doing. So let's bring him in to manage it. Oh, now he's the application packager. Oh, now he's the the guy that deploys the patches." And it eventually kind of added on to that. And one of the reasons that I seem to have a knack for that, because I'm very interested. I'm a geek. I'm really interested to learn new things and new technologies. And regardless of what it is, it's completely random to me. I don't know why I sort of latch on to things the way I do. But the reason that I did that is because, if you approach a project or a task or a new product that you have to manage, you approach it with a little bit of skepticism and fear. Think, I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope this is going to, I hope I'm going to be doing a good job. And a lot of people, a lot of IT guys and gals and geeks, we tend to try to plan a lot. We tend to try to think, we don't ever want to start something until we've got it completely planned out. We know exactly what we're going to do, and everything, the whole thing is structured out. Okay, before I can install this product, I need to know. I need to read the documentation. I need to figure out best practices. I need to find out all the prerequisites. I need to do all this preparation up front, and then I can start. 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is you're going to forget something. You're human. The documentation is going to be wrong. The steps that you write are going to be wrong or out of order. And eventually, you're just going to say, screw it. When you get started and all that stuff's going to go haywire and go crazy, and you think, fuck it, I'm just going to just install this and do my best and roll with the punches. And that's the kind of philosophy that I've been using for years now. I was originally that person that kind of planned up front that, like, okay, I need this to follow a strict protocol and I need to complete control over this process. But at some point, you have to kind of release that control and just jump in the deep end. A lot of us want to go in the shallow end and kind of slowly wade our way down and figure it out. Nowadays, I just jump straight in, and I really think that's what a lot of people should do, because when you jump straight in, you immediately see the problems at hand. Because if you take forever to plan all your project, all the actions that have to take ahead of time, without actually using the product or without actually tinkering out. I mean, we have demo environments, you have testing. You're not going to break anything by trying something. And it's all about just jumping in and just seeing how it works. I'm talking with the System Center example. I had no idea how to even install the thing, but there's no reason not to. We have demo environments, we have the cloud, we have all kinds of different opportunities to just, if you're in IT, you know how to install an MSI or a piece of software. Click next, download it, click next, and just see what options come up. I mean, that's one of the good things about a GUI versus a command line. You see, right in front of you. If you're going to learn something, learn about a product, GUI is really good because it brings up the windows and you just kind of read it. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Next. Okay, well, it tells me I need a management point. Well, what the hell is a management point? Okay, Google, management point. Okay, oh, I understand what a management point is now. Okay, next. Okay, then it needs a SQL server. Okay, even if you don't know what a SQL server is. Okay, stop. SQL server. Google. Figure out what is a database, and you can just iterate over and over and over like that. It's all about just learning as you go, being really agile about your learning process, because you can't waste all this time doing all this upfront planning and figuring out how to do everything exactly. You have to roll with the punches and just jump in the deep end and just completely overwhelm yourself. And if you do that, you're forcing yourself to learn more than what you normally would, because you're actually learning the things that you need to learn and not learning all this stupid shit that has no bearing on what you're going to be doing in the real world. You could watch a 5-hour course or go to some big training course on SCCM. I actually did that years ago, and what I found was I already knew 75% of it, and the 25% of the other benefit that I got was just kind of exposing me to things that I didn't even realize that were there. That's one of the good things about a big course or a big training event, is that it exposes you to things. I use those things just to essentially tell me this new feature. Oh, I didn't know that feature exists. Document, and then I tend to ignore everything they say because I just need to know that exists. Once I have that cue to then take me down the process of learning about that, I learn on my own. I learn myself. I can't just sit and listen to somebody ramble on about the feature or how to script this thing or how to code this thing. I simply can't do it. Maybe a lot of people are different, perhaps. In a senior position that I'm in nowadays, I just can't do it. I have to learn on my own. And that's one of the good things about the big broad courses and training. Like, you can even get that stuff from product announcements if you want. You don't even need to go into training. Just say, oh, I didn't know that a feature existed. Note it, and then come back to it later. And this all goes also on the same lines of not knowing how to do something, the learning process. So I want to give you another example. So back in the same position that I had, I worked with a few people, and there was a couple of guys on the team, which shall remain anonymous, that they were fairly smart because they had a lot of experience, but they were terrible at new things. They got so in the habits of their typical day-to-day managements that they had no idea. They really had no initiative to learn new things. A couple guys were near retirement, and they just simply didn't care. Hey, learn this thing, fix it. I'm near retirement, screw it. They've eventually given up. But what I usually did was that, and I did see a few other people on teams, some really, really, frankly, all-stars on the team, that they would simply take on anything. They were really green and really junior, but they would take on just about anything, regardless if it was in their wheelhouse or not, because they were generally interested and generally wanted to learn more. And one of the guys that I was working with at one point, we were working on I think it was Active Directory. It was an Active Directory migration or something. We were doing some testing around that, and we had no idea. It was something with getting the replication word between the domain controllers. I can't remember, and we had no idea. We couldn't plan ahead because I had no idea what was going to happen if I flipped the switch. I'm like, okay, well, are we going to need to do this step or not in the actual migration? I don't know. I have no idea how to do this thing. So, in order to just completely prevent you from seizing up and just kind of throwing up your hands, I don't know what to do, there's always another way to go down to learn more and to figure out what the problem is and how to fix it. It's just changing shit at random. To be honest with you, I do this probably more times than I can count. But if you're stuck in a position to where honestly, Google has failed you, and there's not any clear answer where you want to go, just change shit that's similar to what you're working with. Okay, well, what happens if I do this? Okay, that totally blew up the server. Bring up another VM. What happens when I do this? It's just like the scientific approach of this, like, changing things where you have no idea. And again, this is a last resort, obviously, but this will always, that's why I believe that everyone can, if you're intelligent enough to put two and two together and notice patterns and learn from your process, you can generally fix just about anything with enough patience. But it's just about changing things seemingly at random that you have no idea what kind of effect they're going to have. You can't plan for this stuff ahead of time. You have to just change it, notice what happens. Okay, this thing over here, okay, the server crashed, but looks like the script on this one actually worked. Okay, now how did why did the server crash and this script work? And you dive into the script maybe a little more. Oh, okay, I see have this variable set here that's wrong. That's what forced the server to crash. Okay, change that, run it again. Okay, now the server didn't crash, but this thing happened. So it's an iterative approach. When you're, as a last resort, you always have a way to get go to the next step of just randomly changing shit. I mean, I do this way too often, to be honest with you, but it works every time because it prevents you from getting seized up and just locking up in your brain and think, I have no what I do. Google doesn't tell me, nobody on the forums are helping me, I have no idea what to do. Just start changing stuff at random. So the motto of this card talk is there is always a way to figure out a solution to a problem, and there is always a way to learn more. And to also don't plan ahead so much. Just jump in feet first, in the deep end, and figure out a way to survive. I mean, because when you're forced into that position, you learn so much more. You will learn what's important and what's not a bunch of fluff that, that has no bearing on what the problem at hand or the feature that they're doing or the task you're doing. So learn approach learning in an agile method and just jump in and just see what happens.